Now, on KATU News at 6:30, surveillance video captures a car as it slammed into several people outside the Rose Garden. How the driver was finally stopped. Plus, the rain and winds returned to our area. What brought this change and what else is in store for us? And drivers in Washington may soon be required to talk on the phone hands-free. What some people in our area think about the idea.
Live from KATU, the Northwest only all-local 6:30 newscast with Steve Dunn, Debora Knapp, and microcast weather with Rod Hill. KATU and you, the spirit of the Northwest.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Debora Knapp.
I'm Dan Tilkin, in tonight for Steve Dunn. Our top local story, Clackamas County Sheriff's deputies make good on thousands of unserved warrants.
They're looking for drunk drivers still on the road. KATU's Brian Barker joins us live from Clackamas with a message from deputies tonight. Brian?
Yeah, that message is turn yourself in, Deb. There are deputies out in force out here in Clackamas County, and if you live out in this area, this may really surprise you. There are 8,000 unserved arrest warrants here in Clackamas County. These people who live in Clackamas County who should be in jail. 2,000 of those unserved arrest warrants are for drunk driving. And tonight they are focusing on drunk driving because tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. Sheriff's deputies are fanning out all across the metro area, arresting people who were wanted for drunk driving. Most of those people didn't show up for court. But here's the big problem. Lots of these people give the Sheriff's Department bad addresses. So even when they dedicate deputies to serving arrest warrants like they're doing tonight, it's tough to find anybody.
Yeah, I know it's humbling to be arrested and have warrants out for your arrest, but it's also a lot better just to take care of it and an overall benefit for everybody.
So why are there so many unserved arrest warrants in Clackamas County? Well, the jails here in Clackamas County are overcrowded, and a lot of these people end up getting arrested for drunk driving or possession of some sort of controlled substance, and then they're released because they've got to keep room in those jails for violent offenders. This isn't just a problem in Clackamas County. It's happening all across the metro area. So far tonight, they have made 72 attempts to serve unserved arrest warrants. A lot of those people don't live at those addresses. So far, they have arrested 26 people, but the reality is, for a lot of these people, they'll end up going to jail for tonight because they didn't show up for court, and they may be released again soon. We're live in Clackamas County tonight. Brian Barker, KATU News.
Brian, thank you. Now, despite repeated warnings and efforts to prevent drunk driving, alcohol-related crashes remain high. According to MAD, in 2002, there were a total of 479 drunk driving deaths in Oregon and in Washington. That accounts for 44% of all traffic fatalities. In 2003, it dropped slightly to 466, about 42% of all traffic deaths.
A day after a man was sentenced to more than 6 years in prison for plowing his Lincoln Navigator into security guards at the Rose Garden, we can show you his crime. It happened back in September after a Prince concert. You can see the 4 security guards on the sidewalk and then the Navigator come into the picture. According to the Oregonian, the driver, Omar Rodriguez, was angry after he got into a scuffle with parking attendants. Rodriguez backs up his SUV and he was rammed by a van. And then after this, minutes later, Portland police officers chased him down and arrested him. Security guards suffered minor to moderately serious injuries. The 23-year-old Rodriguez will spend 6.5 years in prison. Will have to enter an alcohol rehabilitation program.
Our other big story tonight, the winds of change are here, and we're talking literally. After days of unseasonably warm temperatures, things are back to normal again. Here's a look at how hot things really got. Earlier this month, we saw 5 straight days of record highs. The hottest came last Friday when it was 75 degrees. Well, since then, it's slowed off coolly. As a matter of fact, at 56 degrees today is the coolest day since February 25th. We have team coverage of our changing weather tonight.
And so we begin with KATU's John Capel live on a roof with some damage caused by today's winds. John, what'd you find?
Well, Dan, Deb, you know, it's not raining right now, but you can see behind me the wind is still blowing, still moving that windsock just a little bit. Not so much now as it was earlier, though. You know, when March arrived today, or maybe finally woke up, it did come in like a lion. But things finally turned to from May to March. It caused a lot of folks a lot of problems. You said there was some damage. The winds of change blew in with gusto, blowing up dust, blowing down small tree limbs all over the place. Now, it was brief, but the storm swept across the metro area with gusts of almost 40 miles an hour. Now, that brought down several trees around the area, including this one in northeast Portland. It took 2 fences along with it. Trees and limbs also snapped power lines all over the place. PGA says at least at the most, about 1,000 folks at any one time were briefly without power. It did catch a lot of folks off guard.
Couldn't believe it. I'm walking out, I'm like, I forgot my umbrella. Oh, that's right, I haven't needed it for like a month.
It's been sunny so long, I left my raincoat at home because it never rains anymore. So that's the reason why. Maybe not the best choice for today.
Now, PGE says they're still mopping up small power outages all over the area. About 300 customers still looking to get that power back in. Small outages in just very scattered spots, just maybe limbs down here and there, maybe 1, 2, or maybe 3 houses at a time. Live in Northeast Portland, John Capel, KATU News.
And John, the wintry weather was kind of a relief for some. The big question now, will we see any more of it soon? KATU meteorologist Rod Hill continues our Team 2 coverage from the Weather Center. Rod.
We do have another storm, a much bigger, wetter one coming in for the weekend, which we'll be talking about during my complete forecast. Right now, I want you to notice what the peak wind gusts were earlier this afternoon across the metro area. Maybe not as high as you were thinking. 38 miles per hour, rather, at PDX turned out to be the highest report that we've had. There is still that high wind warning for those of you that live out to the east, the Dalles, Pendleton, up through the basin. You folks until midnight tonight could be looking at gusts as high as 65 miles per hour. You folks will be closer to this big low. This is the map back at noon today. You're watching a low, and those lines are lines of equal pressure, and the winds hum around this low, bringing in that northwesterly flow. That's what we had today. And as that low moves off tonight, everybody will eventually see the winds start to calm down. So it wasn't a big rainmaker for us. It was a pretty good wind machine. Now we move on to the next storm for the weekend. Details coming up.
Certainly a change of pace. Thank you. It wasn't the wind that knocked out power today in Salem. It was a Mylar party balloon. The balloon floated into 2 power lines this morning, burning out some connectors and knocking out power to some 2,000 people. PGE officials say it is unusual for those metallic-looking Mylar party balloons to cause so much damage, but they say this is a good reminder of how seemingly harmless toys can wreak havoc on power lines.
Washington's Governor Christine Gregoire is standing by her campaign pledge to cut state government. Today, Gregoire announced she will cut 1,000 middle managers' positions. Those cuts are going to save $50 million in salaries. Currently, 6,000 middle managers work in the state government in Washington. These cuts will hopefully provide more services to the public.
I want the resources on the ground, not in middle management. I want people out there responding in 24 hours. To a CPS complaint, not 10 days.
Governor Gregoire says it's too soon to talk about taxes, but there is a chance there would need to be new taxes to make up $2.5 billion that's in the budget deficit. The governor also ordered her cabinet to eliminate low-priority programs and trim overhead by purchasing supplies in bulk.
Oregon House Democrats say the legislature's fiscal management is a mess. Tonight, they've come up with a plan to try to fix it. It's called the ASAP plan. It includes setting up a rainy day fund separate from the current Education Stability Fund. Money would come from the state general fund and the capital gains tax. The plan also calls for limiting tax breaks and require tax breaks to expire within 10 years.
Still ahead on KATU News tonight, officials look into a mysterious chemical spill at a country club in Gresham. Plus,
handling a cell phone while driving may soon cost you in Washington State. Hear how much you could be fined.
You're watching KATU News, the spirit of the Northwest.
We have some breaking news to tell you about tonight. There's a 2-alarm fire at the BOEING plant in Gresham. We're told the fire started about 10 minutes ago. We have a crew on the scene to gather more information. Of course, we'll bring it to you as soon as we get it.
Meanwhile, tonight, DEQ officials are running some tests to figure out what it was that spilled into a creek in Gresham. It happened this morning at the Gresham Golf and Country Club off of Division Street. Officials said it smelt like diesel fuel but looked more like oil. Whatever it was, it killed a duck and contaminated a couple of others. Gresham fire officials will remain on the scene throughout the night to clean up the mess.
Drivers who talk on a cell phone while driving are a big step closer to breaking the law in Washington State. The Senate voted to make it illegal to use a cell phone without a hands-free device while driving. It would be a secondary offense, meaning drivers would face a $101 fine if they're pulled over for something else like speeding and they're holding a cell phone.
One of the things we see the most often out here where somebody's speeding, weaving, running stop signs, following too close the whole time while they're on their cell phone, and then they get off the phone and they back off the car they're following too close.
And the bill now goes to the State House. In an exclusive KATU News survey, the majority of the people support going hands-free. 64% of the 500 people surveyed are in favor of making it the law. 28% oppose it.
The end of the largest deployment of Oregon soldiers since World War II will have to wait for now. The flights bringing nearly 700 soldiers from the Oregon National Guard's 2nd Battalion, 162nd Infantry, have been delayed until tomorrow. Monica Little's husband, Stephen, is one of those returning soldiers. The 162nd has been serving in Iraq for nearly 2 years. In that time, 8 of the soldiers have been killed. Aircraft problems set back the unit's planned return to Fort Lewis today. Monica Little doesn't mind waiting.
Up here now, so now it feels like more reality. So a few more hours, probably, hopefully, won't be too bad of a problem.
There will be a final demobilization ceremony for the members of the 162nd at the end of the month.
And still ahead on the show, Nike finds a way to sell its shoes at discount prices and every day.
Intel management said they wanted to do a better job of telling their own story. So today, the company released an economic impact study. It gives us some details about what we already knew. Intel is an economic powerhouse in Oregon. The study is unveiled just as Intel finalizes a property tax agreement with Washington County designed to keep the high-tech giant competitive. Intel says it will allow it to invest another $25 billion here over the next 15 years.
Property taxes on a facility such as Intel's would be just phenomenally high. It would make the Intel facility uncompetitive. This enables the Intel facility to be competitive and in turn makes Oregon competitive.
The Intel agreement with Washington County is the same kind of deal that Multnomah County struck with Microchip and LSI Logic. Negotiators say the agreements make sense and that the economy gets a big boost.
Nike is going the way of Martha Stewart and Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. The Beaverton-based company will start selling its products at a discount department store. Nike is teaming up with Walmart. It plans to sell its new sneaker line there. It'll be marketed under the Starter brand for about $40. This is Walmart's first line of athletic shoes.
Still ahead on KATU News, Damon Stoudemire gets a break in court today. Ron's in next with details.
So, Ron, Animal House was shot at the U of O. Maybe it should have been shot at OSU.
Well, they're building a case for it with this one. I'll tell you, another Oregon State football player is in trouble with the law tonight for a rather bizarre reason. Lineman Ben Siegert has been arrested for, among other things, stealing a ram from the OSU Sheep Center. Siegert might have gotten away with the prank if he hadn't been caught driving the getaway pickup more than 60 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. After being pulled over, he was also arrested, though, for driving under the influence. Siegert is at least the 8th OSU football player to be arrested in the last 7 months. Well, Blazers guard Damon Stoudemire gets a big break from the Oregon Court of Appeals tonight. In a split vote, the court has backed up a previous ruling saying the search of Damon Stoudemire's home 3 years ago violated his constitutional rights because officers didn't have a search warrant. Stoudemire had been charged with felony possession of more than 150 grams of marijuana. It happened after Lake Oswego police responded to a burglar alarm at Stoudemire's home in February of 2002. And when they arrived, they found the front door open, searched the home, found no intruders, but did find a pound of marijuana. Today's ruling means what was found cannot be used as evidence against Damon. The decision will now likely be appealed to the Oregon Supreme Court. Hey, some time for some real sports highlights. How about that? Spring training with the M's and Giants. Seattle new third baseman Adrian Beltre showing off some nice defense here. And looks like the Blue Hairs were liking that, and they'd like this too. Beltre, the RBI single as well. Seattle over the Giants by a score of 4-1. And back to the Blazers. They are trailing at the half down in Houston by 14 at the moment.
All right. Thanks, Ron. Weather's coming up next. Our typical winter uniform for living in the Northwest is like a raincoat and umbrella. A lot of folks forgot today. Yeah.
We needed it. We talked about the rain, 50-50 shot of picking up exactly what we did, and that was 1/10 of an inch or less around most of the area. Didn't expect the winds to be as strong on this side of the state, and they were humming pretty good. By the way, we had the peak wind gust, remember, of 38 miles per hour at Portland, and here's kind of a fun little graphic to help guide you to know what the wind speed is. 20 miles per hour, dust blows, small trees sway. By the time you get up to 40 miles per hour, you feel that force against you and walking becomes difficult. And 50 miles per hour, usually the main parameter where you start getting a lot of reports of some of the weaker trees in the area down. Of course, we did have enough branches coming down today, as we told you earlier in the show, to produce some power outages. Rainfall amounts, the most on the north coast, Astoria 0.21, and Portland so far 0.06 inches, so not a whole lot. Here is microcast Doppler radar right now. We still have some rains coming through the area, but you can see we're kind of getting on the back side of it. It is now dry up and down the Oregon coastline. All this is pushing off to the west. I'll zoom you in around the Portland area. And these are probably one of the last batches of rain that you will see moving through the Banks area right now in Hillsboro, Beaverton area, getting this batch moving through. And there's a little bit just north of the downtown area. So you still need your umbrella out there, at least as we go into the early evening hours. Temperatures on the cool side, after seeing highs today in the mid-50s, we've fallen off dramatically. 47 in Portland, 48 in Salem right now, 47 up at Astoria. Boy, this looks like lots going on, huh? The reason for that wind, by the way, this little curl you see up here, it's a low pressure system, and as it's been moving down toward us, it produced that wind machine that we picked up. Now, the cold front with this is what's now starting to come through the area and shutting off the rain. And oh yeah, all of this is coming for the weekend, and eventually this weekend we could have the most rain we've had in a real long time, maybe well over half of an inch. Tomorrow, just a calm day. Light winds on the coast, partly sunny skies. Temperatures will be in the 50s. Fairly calm near shore. The marine forecast featuring no advisories. High tide in the morning, early at 4:41. Winds will be only about 10 knots. 50s again tomorrow. Partly sunny skies. Light winds. 56 in Salem, 55 up in Longview. Government Camp 41. Nice tomorrow, but check this out. Tonight, all that mess that's now moving up into the Cascades could produce as much as 5 inches of snow down below the passes to 3,000 feet. So if you're traveling up over 26 later tonight, you could have some problems. Should see a beautiful white coverage of new snow tomorrow morning up there. High wind warning, a reminder until midnight tonight for you folks from the Dalles eastward and then up through the Columbia River Basin. You could still see some gusts as high as 65 miles per hour. Tomorrow, different story. Your winds will be calming down, partly sunny skies, 56 in Pelton. Still breezy, though, at times from Burns up into Baker City tomorrow. Northwest winds still blowing there. In the Gorge tomorrow, winds will be west 10 to 20 miles per hour. Partly sunny skies, 57 in Hood River. You wake up in the morning here at home, winds will be light. Partly cloudy skies expected, a temperature of 38, and then tomorrow's high with kind of partly sunny conditions up to around 56 and light winds. The rating for your Thursday, we'll give it a 7. Should be just a nice kind of calm March day for us, and the 10-day trend features also a dry Friday. And then a wet weekend. We're talking about rain developing on Saturday. Could be raining all night Saturday into much of the day Sunday, or at least the first part of Sunday. I think there's a 12-14 hour window of constant rain in there somewhere, and then showers linger into the first part of next week. Wow, I had stuff to do today. This is so exciting. Back to you guys.
Yeah, take a big swig of water.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. We want to bring you up to the minute on tonight's top stories, including some breaking news that's unfolding as we speak. Firefighters have responded to a 2-alarm blaze in Gresham at the BOEING plant. This is just off of Sandy. We don't know the cause, but we do have a crew on the scene, and we'll get you the information as soon as we get it. Deputies are fanning out across Clackamas County to serve warrants to people wanted for drunk driving. They have more than 2,000 DUI warrants to serve, and as of right now, they've issued about 24 of them. The Washington State Senate okayed a bill to impose a $107 fine for talking on a handheld cell phone while you drive. It is a secondary offense, which means an officer cannot pull you over just for chatting. You have to get stopped for another offense first. The bill goes to the State House. And families of about 150 Oregon National Guard soldiers will have to wait another day to see their loved ones. The homecoming flight for Oregon's largest deployment since World War II has been delayed until tomorrow morning. They were supposed to return tonight.
And finally tonight, she's been called an inspiration. Now the first legally blind musher to compete in the Iditarod will ride in the Rose Festival Starlight Parade as Grand Marshal. Rachel Skadoris, who's just 20 years old, who was born in Bend and started dog sledding at the age 3. But as Grand Marshal, she won't be on a sled. She'll ride in an official Rose Festival car. The parade is the Northwest's second largest illuminated parade and takes place on June 4th. As for Skadoris, she's still in the race with about 300 miles to go. The winner crossed the finish line earlier today.
She is a determined woman. She was ABC's Person of the Week earlier. I think it was last week.
It's absolutely amazing what she does. Everything's kind of blurry. She can see a little bit, but most things are blurry.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back with more at 11.
Have a great evening.